You are watching Influence Media, PSI TV, the Netflix of biz brands.
Jumping ponds to grow again. That's what we need to do if our goal is influential reach. Let's talk about that. So over here at PSI TV, we give our guests the brand elevation advantage. And the concept is you might be influential, you might be a big fish in a tiny pond. We want you to jump ponds and grow again. Did you know that goldfish do not grow to the size of their tank, but the size of the tank is an important factor for their growth from a practical sense? Goldfish can self-limit their growth in smaller tanks. It's a phenomenon called stunting. Goldfish have the potential to grow larger than their initial size, but the growth is influenced by various factors, including genetics, proper care, tank size, water quality and temperature, diet, and nutrition. We're not very different, guys. Humans have a potential, a capacity. Very few of us grow into that capacity. The size of the fish is the capacity that the fish has potential for is there. It always has been there. It's not determined by the size of the tank, but the size of the tank can limit the potential of the fish growth. This is the concept of jumping ponds and growing again. Are you maximizing your personal capacity? Chances are your environment, your care, and other things around you, maybe even your diet and nutrition, are stunting you. Let's talk about growing that influence and that audience reach. So we're going to be going over the influence and the little pond, why you need to jump ponds, adapting and growing, becoming the bigger fish, and how PSI TV can be a resource for your influential reach. Guys, this is a weekly show that we do every Monday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. Trudy Beerman here. Thank you for joining me live or later. Wherever you are watching this from, I'd appreciate a comment just to let me know, because we're looking to grow our own influence and audience reach. So it's always an interest to me to know where in the world you're listening from. Do me the favor of just making a note in the comments below and telling me where in the world you're listening from. We'd like to know how far this message is going. We happen to know that our podcast, which is the audio version of our shows, has a high interest in Egypt. Now, I'm in the United States. Ask me why Egypt has locked onto our message in such a big way, but we are a top podcast in Egypt. So let's talk about influence and the little pond. There's a difference between influence and reach. So if you're a big fish in a small pond, you do have influence, but your reach is very tiny. Audience reach, on the other hand, is when you have the world at your disposal. So you can be known across the world for something good, or you can be known across the world for something bad. So which is it going to be for you? Now, we will have to agree that the comfort zone is in that small pond. You know your peers, you know you're well known at your church, you're well known at your school, but you leave that space, you leave that circle. It's no longer very comfortable for you. All of a sudden, you're a nobody. For example, I was born in Jamaica, and my family was well known in Jamaica. Well known. Jamaica is a tiny island. It could fit a million times over in the state of Florida. I come here and nobody knows my name, my family name, or anything. So there is the comfort zone when you stay in your tiny circle where you are a big fish. So here's why you need to jump ponds. The main reason is limitations exist in a confined environment. So let's see what the Bible says about this. In Genesis 12, God calls Abram. His name was Abram, and then God changed it to Abraham. That's a story for another day. Let's just see what this says here. Now the Lord said to Abram, go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land I will show you, and I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great so that you will be a blessing. Abram had to leave his country to get this growth, to get this blessing. The blessing was not going to come from his place of familiarity. A lot of times, if you, let's say, for example, you grew up in the hood, or you had maybe you had a criminal history or something, the people who knew you are not going to let you forget that. They're not going to let you forget where you came from. And sometimes that's a good thing because it makes you who you are. But when you are trapped in that situation, you really are not going to grow beyond the limitation of that environment. So God called Abram out of his home into a wide and open space. And in that wide and open space, he was able to get his name great, influence, and reach. And he, in the process, also acquired a lot of wealth. Abram wasn't just rich, guys. He was very rich. The Bible says he was very rich in cattle and in gold and in silver. Here's another one from the New Testament. This is Romans 15:23-32. But now, since I no longer have room for work in these regions, and since I have longed for many years to come to you, I hope to see you in passing as I go to Spain, and may be helped on my journey there by you once I've enjoyed your company for a while. At present, however, I'm going to Jerusalem, bringing aid to the saints. And he talks about Macedonia and Achaia and all of this. This is Paul talking. So Paul was one of the great apostles, and he left his home, traveled the world. In fact, he has been one of the main contributors to the Gentile population knowing Christ. So he traveled. He had this important message that he had to share, and he could not stay in his hometown. He had to take the message, and he traveled to take the message far and wide. And on top of it, it says, since I have no longer any room for work in these 8 regions. He had maxed his capacity in the pond he was in. He needed to jump ponds, so he now was going to Spain and so forth. We do need to jump ponds. If you have a message, a solution, a lifestyle upgrade, entertainment, people need to know about it. People need to know about it. People can be blessed by it. You need to get that message out far and wide. Now, when you jump ponds, there's going to be that measure of discomfort. You're no longer around your area of comfort, the people who know you. Are going to be in a brand new, unknown environment. And the Peter principle is an academic understanding that we have a capacity. So let's say you're in a job and you're being promoted, all of a sudden you're no longer being promoted. You have hit the limit of your capacity in that job. So that's a Peter principle. We will have a natural limit, and people will be able to see it. This is why you want to get coaching and training, because you can, if you don't keep growing, you're going to hit the capacity of where you are, and that's going to keep you where you are. You need to keep growing and becoming the bigger fish in that next bigger pond. So a part of the adapting and growing is now you have the opportunity to share your message on a stage, on television, on podcasts, and many of you are in stage fright mode. This is one of the limiting capacities for people being willing to take their message out there. Guys, you just have to get over it. You just have to get over it. Even something as simple as camera presence. I've had many guests on PSI TV who they have not even made a video for themselves, and they really don't have the camera presence. They don't look in the camera. They're scared. And it shows up on camera. You still got to do it. You just have to do it. You just have to get over it. There's no way to get over it except practice. Okay, you just have to do it. Now, becoming the bigger fish. Okay, so you realize you've hit the capacity of where you are. You've decided now to jump and grow again. So you've gotten over the stage fright. You're starting to adapt your environment. Now you need to become the bigger fish, guys. If you do this right. So if you're a little fish if you're a big fish in a small pond, and you have influence in that small pond, and you jump and you grow again, okay, you have to become that bigger fish in that next pond to jump and grow again. Technically, at that point, if you're doing that and doing it right, you can become well known in your community, in your city, in your state, in your nation, and maybe even globally. That is the goal for PSI TV. We're doing this along with you. We're asking you to join us on this journey. We have helped many. So we consider ourselves like maybe just a step or two ahead of some of you. So we're not by any means a global household name yet. We're working on that. We're definitely seeing from our metrics that we're growing and growing and growing. And we've brought a lot of people along with us. And you should be doing the same, whether you do it with us or not. This content is to help you. If you're that A-type personality, to take this information and run with it by all means. Now, some of you may know I'm a doctoral candidate and I'm in the area of strategic leadership with my interest for research in influential reach, primarily because I'm in TV. So that's why I'm doing that as well. So I am always looking at academic research. And here is one that I found. It's peer reviewed, which means it's not just somebody wrote it. They were an expert in their space, and peers within their industry looked it over and verified it. So it's peer reviewed. It's very recent. And the study was on the valuation of brand equity and retailer growth strategies using real options. Growth strategies for brand equity. If you understand equity, it's think of when you purchase your house and you take out your mortgage, you have almost zero equity, or maybe just your deposit is the equity in your house. But over time, you, after paying in more and more over time, your equity in that house grows. It's the same with brands, guys. If we keep showing up, if we keep pumping out content, if we make strategic moves to reach a wider and wider audience every time, you're building brand equity. So this particular research looks at brand equity growth strategies. So let's see what it has to say. So here is one aspect of that research. So the business gets launched. There's different things that they do for reinforcements. And here comes leverage. Leverage is going to be your marketing, your presence on TV, your social media, all the kinds of strategic moves that you make to leverage that brand to have more and more exposure and expansion. And from that leverage, you can get brand expansion and brand extension. I'm not going to go into what that means. You can see here, brand expansion may be new geographic areas, new market segments, and all of that. Brand extension can be, more categories within your. So for example, with PSI TV, we started out as just a TV platform and we were interviewing guests they were on TV. We gave them that TV placement. However, we have had that category extension. So we offer guaranteed views. We offer press release and distribution. We're taking the content and we're sending it to other platforms through podcasts and so forth. So we have been doing that. We have been leveraging our brand to achieve a measure of brand expansion and brand extension. That's what you should be doing as well. Here's another aspect of that same research, and it says identifying true comparable firms often is challenging. Many of you don't even know who your true competitor is. One needs to identify all relevant characteristics that make firms comparable besides being in a typical firm in the same industry. It's not enough to just look at your competitor in the same industry, not just the same industry, but what could be a substitute for you altogether. So for example, a substitute for TV is YouTube. It truly is. So it's not, I can't just look at other TV platforms as my competitor. I have to look at YouTube and Vimeo as my potential competitor for my audience's attention and their dollars. So you have to really think through your industry when you're looking at how are you going to get that brand equity. The other thing that it says here, a brand's value is an intangible object. It's not like I can say I've got 6 computers and so many cameras. Those are tangible objects that can be part of the asset computation of the value of the business. But the brand has a value and it's quite intangible. And right now, that's one of the challenges going on with the war with Trump, because there's an argument about whether his property is at the value that he says. Now, if they're looking at just the market value in comparisons, they will have one valuation, but the brand of Trump has an intangible asset valuation. We don't have to agree on whether we like Trump or not. This is not that. We're looking at that as an example that the Trump brand has an intangible value that is harder to compute in the overall brand value of everything. And so our approach that links brand value creation to management's vision, strategic plans, and contingent future scenarios in the firm's environment. So a lot of times when a company gets bought out, okay, so like the original people who made YouTube got bought out by Google, and they got a large sum, probably way more than the immediate valuation, but the valuation for the buyout would have included the future scenarios in the firm's environment. So you have to think about that when you're even looking at your brand value as you make these strategic growth moves. And guys, if you fail to make these strategic growth moves that leverage your brand equity, such as appearing everywhere, that digital omnipresence that I keep talking about, I can't drive it home enough, jumping ponds and growing again, appearing everywhere. I have a media challenge. Some of you may have already participated. Some of you may want to opt in on the wait list to do that in the future, where you get the stuff you need to get qualified to be invited on various podcast stages and shows. So that's something you, if you're interested, that's not being offered here right now, but you can let me know and we can add you to that wait list. But you really should be leveraging your brand strategically, because that brand value equity is an intangible object, but it is very, very real. So your competitor is not necessarily right next to you, okay? Your competition will be those who are in your industry, but it doesn't have to be. You can create a blue ocean strategy, and I've talked about that before, where you're not lumped in with the rest. So you are seen as way out there, maybe even as a luxury option to the rest. You're not lumped in with the rest. You're not a Dollar Tree. You're not a Walmart. You may be a Neiman Marcus or something. So in other words, you even if you seem to sell similar opportunities, that you are just a mile away from the nearest competitor. So TV is the #1 video platform for authority. It still is. I asked ChatGPT, of the 5 video platforms available, which is #1, and TV came up #1. YouTube was #2. Now, why is TV still #1? It's been mainstream and understanding for decades that this is the authoritative video platform. The second thing, and most importantly, is while YouTube has now in many ways outstretched the reach of television as a platform, YouTube, anybody can be on YouTube. Any joker can be there. And the effort and cost it takes to be on television creates that blue ocean strategy between YouTube and TV. And that's why TV remains a powerhouse for authority and credibility, because it does take quite a bit of effort and sometimes expense to have a TV presence. When you come on PSI TV, for example, because we're talking about PSI TV as a resource for achieving influential reach, your competitor is not showing up on television. Look around you, whatever industry you're in. I can tell you, for example, we just created a new brand channel for West CEO Fitness. When we looked it up on Roku, there were only 16 fitness channels on TV. Guys, TV has changed from the days of black and white and 3 channels, and it's been evolving over time. Television as a platform has been evolving. Then we had 24/7, and we had all cable TV, and then we had TiVo, and now with Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, we now have the Internet Protocol TV, which is allowed for on-demand television 24/7, and the opportunity for an organization like mine to suddenly exist. So Roku television as a platform for sharing content, just like YouTube when it started up, when people started putting content on there, Roku television is still wide open for people like you and me to have a TV presence, which was a high barrier blocking us from before. So your competitor is not on television, guys. West CEO Fitness is the 17th fitness channel on Roku TV. That's it. If somebody goes clicking through for fitness, there's 17 options. Actually, we haven't launched the 17th one yet. 17 options. I promise you, when you type in on Roku the channels, you can do Bitcoin, you can do coaching, you can do legal, you can whatever industry you're in. There are a handful of channels. It's still wide open. So if any of you remember what it was to be one of the first on Facebook, one of the first on YouTube, Guys, this is wide open territory. Your competitor is not here. Trust transfer comes like if you're on a guest on my show, my audience has no clue who you are, but they know who I am. And they're going to assume that if I've decided that you are worthy of being a guest on PSI TV, they're going to automatically transfer the trust they have for me to you. That's kind of how it works on any platform. That's why people want to be on Oprah, because the trust transfer from this known, respected brand gets transferred over to the person who is not known by that group at all. Nobody knows you. It's like if your friend introduces you, it makes a big difference. And if you walk into the room and try and introduce yourself, that's trust transfer. That happens when you're a guest on PSI TV. The endowment effect is another academic concept. That is the association with what is considered a prestigious brand. So when your presence on TV, whether it is you have a brand channel on Roku or Apple TV or one, by the way, we can build those. Whether it is because your presence is there, your brand is there, it's an automatic assumption of elevation of your brand. It's like if you write a book, guys, even if you've never made a book sale, the fact that you've written a book is already a wow to a lot of people. Why? Because they're not doing it. They haven't accomplished it. The fact that you have done it is a wow factor. That is the endowment effect of having a presence on television. And PSI TV can make that happen for you, whether as a guest or as a brand channel. You will also get that new audience reach. When you're a guest on PSI TV or you have a brand channel on television, you are going to reach an audience you're not currently tapping into. And depending on the package that you choose with us, we can not just give you placement on these many platforms, but we can also guarantee you views and take that content we've already collected, write a press release and get it distributed. We're stacking the value to our guests. So we have left just being a TV platform so people can go, yeah, I was on TV. No, in addition, we now see ourselves in the influential reach business. And so when we serve our guests, that's one of the goals is how are we contributing to their influence and their reach? There are many that do what you do. There are many that can be an alternative to you. Like I said, YouTube is an alternative to television. So as you're there amongst the many, the goal is to stand out. The goal is to be the one that comes to mind when people want what you have to offer, and television will help with that. Should you decide that that is your next move and you want to get brand elevation advantage, you could consider being a guest on PSI TV. You do have to apply. We tend to take on coaches, authors, and business owners. We're not an entertainment channel, we're an edutainment channel. So even entertainers that we do interview, we're looking more at the business of their talent. Okay. So if you are one of those people, you can apply and then you'll hear back from us, because we want to also make sure that the content we're sharing with our audience is a fit. Having connected with PSI TV, the goal is a result in your influence and your reach. You are going to be the one others want to hear from. You are going to be offered opportunities to be guests on stages, podcasts, and more. Yours will be the first name that comes to mind for the thing that you do, the obvious choice from the competition around you. You will even be recognized by people you don't know. You show up on TV, it's like the pastor at the church. Everybody knows the pastor at the church. The pastor does not know everybody at the church. That's one of the things that happens when you grow your influence and your reach. You will eventually be considered a celebrity and paid as one. If this was of value to you, like, comment, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you will be reminded when we put up new content and you can get it right away and not miss it. Trudy Beerman here. Thank you so much for joining me live or later. And I do respond to comments, guys. If you drop that comment in wherever you're watching this, because this is going to be syndicated out to many platforms, please let me know where you're watching from. And let me know if you've ever had a TV experience anywhere and how you are growing your influence and reach, influential reach. That's what we're all about here. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm super simple to find, and I do look forward to